looking outside of the comfort zone of, what what I like to read, which tend to be people who look like me. So looking outside of that comfort zone is helpful, but I wonder if the privilege hierarchy, the privilege ladder, does that sort of coincide with the problematic hierarchy? Are people who are more privileged more likely to be problematic? I'm sorry, I don't know the name of the author, Lee, that you were just saying, the Akata Witch series. I'm sorry?
Nnedi Okorafor.
Nnedi Okorafor. Okay, I was trying to write that down. Thanks. And Nigerian, did you say?
She's a Nigerian American woman.
Got it.
She's amazing, and her science fiction blows me away.
I've read all of her books.
So I'm curious, would Nnedi Okorafor be potentially problematic in examining her work? Or, again, I'm stumbling over my words, but like the privilege hierarchy, are privileged people more likely to be problematic, I guess is my main question.
Well, to be really pithy, privileged people are more likely to be problematic in public because they're given public forums more often than people are. So I mean, like, so like that's the obvious answer from an art perspective. But I'm sure other people have different opinions about that as well.
Well, I was gonna say, like, for me personally, like when you say I like to read books about people who look like me, guess what? 95% of books published aren't published by people who are brown.
Mm-hmm.
They can't get published because, it's like American Dirt, right? We have a white woman who's going to tell the story of Mexican people surviving as immigrants at the border because Hispanic women were not given an opportunity to write that book. Nobody wanted to publish it because they were not sympathetic. I don't know. I mean, the whole, it's such a part of everything that you have the privilege, that your voice gets heard, that your work gets put out there, that you get the spotlight, right? Like I made a very concentrated effort for a year. I decided that my New Year's resolution for that year was I was not reading anything by cisgendered straight white men. And all of my friends who were, big science fiction and fantasy fans were like, but Neil Gaiman. And I'm like, right, Neil's books will still be there. Right? However many he publishes in that year, I'm not going to never catch up with them if I really want to read them. But for this year, I am reading people who are marginalized in one or more ways. And that's it. I'm like, they're LGBTQ, they're transgender, they're people of color, they are disabled, they are something. They have perspectives that are majority ignored in our culture. And every book and every short story collection I read, and I collected from sources, I mean, I put it out on Facebook. Hey, tell me about an author that I haven't heard of that you think is amazing and how are they different than Neil Gaiman, right?
So Camille,
I'm really loving this because in the last topic, my big question was, what do we do now? And so far, I personally have taken two really good things out of this topic. One from Lee in your silver lining about, this is an amazing opportunity for advocacy. And that feels like, helping to answer the question or helping to at least go in the right direction of what do we do about this now? Okay, I'm going to still like Harry Potter and I'm going to be a better advocate. And what Camille here is saying, reach beyond your comfort level as far as the art that you are consuming and support, actively and intentionally do that type of work. So I just wanted to acknowledge that I'm loving what everyone has to say here.
Well, if we want to take it back specifically to sex, also whose books on sexuality are we reading? Which speakers? Like I loved when Kevin Allison came out with a book of Love's Not Colorblind.
Patterson.
Patterson.
Patterson. Thank you. Thank you. Wrong Kevin. That's a different.
Very good one.
Very different Kevin.
Wrote another
That's a
book.
very different Kevin. Thank you.
Talking about, so.
Very different Kevin. But when he wrote Love is Not Colorblind, to have him point out all of the, like, a variety of issues in polyamory around these topics, right? And to have me pause and go, oh, most of the books on polyamory and non-monogamous relationships I'd read were by a specific population. Again, this goes back to consuming, and whose voices am I hearing as a sex educator? Whose voices am I listening to? What bodies am I seeing around sexuality? Whose conversations, whose articles are we reading, whose blogs, right? Because if we go back to, who's getting published as books, the issue there that you're talking about is very true, very prevalent, but the internet is making other spaces available, right? Is making other places. So where am I also consuming information that might be online? Who can I call to be like, hey, I want to learn more about sexuality. Who do you know I haven't read yet?